You are listening to the Love and Confidence Podcast, episode number 114. Welcome to the Love and Confidence Podcast. If you're a woman who wants to feel more irresistible, have more fun, and create deeper and more authentic connections, this podcast is for you. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help you become the best and most confident version of yourself so you can attract the love life you desire. Let's get started. Hey there, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, and I know it has a lot of different meanings to you out there. Some of you might feel if you are single, you might feel extra single, and some of you, well, you don't really care. So where I grew up in Denmark, we only recently started celebrating Valentine's Day, and before that, it was, in my world, an American tradition that we only knew from Hollywood rom-coms. And there was, at the same time, kind of sweet, but also very commercial. So I want to encourage you to remember that it is just a day like any other day, and don't let any chocolate or flower businesses make you feel sad or that there's something wrong with you for being single. So even though I think it's just a day like any other day, I still wanted to give you some ideas on what to do on Valentine's Day if you are single and you don't have any plans. First of all, you can listen to podcasts. And there are 113 other episodes of the Love and Confidence podcast. So if you haven't listened to them yet, there is enough for a long time. I haven't counted the number of minutes, but I would say probably 2 full days and 2 nights. But there are also many other great podcasts out there. For instance, the Love Your Life podcast. And I want to reveal to you that next week you get to hear a conversation with Rhonda Loveridge, the host of this podcast. So you can look forward to that. And there is also the Ex Good Girl podcast with Sarah Fisk, with who I had a conversation in episode 99 from late October last year, Breaking the Good Girl Rules. So I also can recommend to go back and give that a listen or listen to her podcast. There is also the Confidence podcast with Trish Blackwell or Jillian on Love with Jillian Turecki. And I also want to recommend that you go and listen to the Self-Trust Solution podcast, because this week I was actually invited to talk on this podcast with Dawn Lidé, and we talked about curiosity over chemistry, rethinking attraction, and building love confidence. So that is another podcast I can recommend to you. And if you want to listen to something that is not directly related to dating or even coaching, you can try out The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett or Huberman Lab with Andrew Huberman. So there were some ideas on things to listen to. And if you live in a place where there is a swimming pool still open on a Friday night, you could go and do a late night swim. I personally love doing that on a Friday if I don't have any other plans. It is the time of the week where there is less crowded in the swimming pool, just before they close, and you can get a good long swim. And similarly, you could also go to the gym if that is what you like, and you can also there listen to a podcast while working out. That is actually much more difficult while swimming. I'm still looking for a way to listen to music while swimming. I think that it exists, but I haven't really found it. And I'm also wondering, how is it even possible to listen to music? But that is the one thing I miss when I swim. It can become very monotonous when you don't listen to either music or a podcast. So if any of you have an idea how to listen to music, how to have a playlist in your ears while you're swimming, please let me know. You could also go out with friends. And that is, of course, obvious. Go out with some of your single friends. Go and try a new bar, or a bar that isn't new but that you've never been to. One thing I've discovered is quite cool. If you want to find a place with nice, comfortable armchairs and less noise, yeah, you can hear I'm getting older, it is to find a hotel bar, like a bar in a luxury hotel. These are usually much less crowded and there's a calm and very zen atmosphere. You might have to pay a little bit extra for a cocktail, but in some cases, it's totally worth it. You could also call someone you haven't been in touch with for a long time, an old friend or a family member. Just call to check in with them. Taking care of someone else or giving someone the surprise of unexpected attention through a phone call, that can actually lift your own mood quite a lot and make you feel really good. Or you could take a foot bath. How often do we allow ourselves time for that, right? Do it while you're on the phone with your friend. And also, you could take a short online course. It could be a dance class, for instance. Even if you're not signed up for a class in a studio, you could take a class on your computer while you dance at home in your living room and learn a new choreography. It is very difficult to not be in a good mood while you're dancing. And then you could also ask silly questions or have a long conversation with ChatGPT. And that is something I tried the other day. I logged in and I made a test to see how good is ChatGPT's conversation skills really. And I want to share this with you. So I started out by saying, "Hey ChatGPT, wanna chat with me and help me feel less lonely for being single on Valentine's Day?" And ChatGPT said, "Of course, you are not alone. I'm here to chat, keep you company, and make sure you have a fun and uplifting Valentine's Day." Being single on Valentine's Day is actually a great opportunity to celebrate you, your independence, your growth, and all the amazing things about yourself. Want to tell me a bit about your ideal way of spending the evening? We can plan something fun together. Or, if you just want to chat and laugh, I'm all ears. We can talk about anything: funny dating stories, dream vacations, favorite movies, or even just vent about the weirdness of modern romance. What's on your mind? Yay! I love it. My ideal way of spending the evening. I would love to go outside the city and find a little cabin with an outdoor spa, drink champagne under the stars, and wake up to a beautiful view and have coffee and breakfast and a nice long walk in nature. But you're a robot, so I guess we're staying in. But then I would love to hear something about you. What is your funniest dating story? If you're okay sharing that with me, of course. That sounds like an absolutely dreaming Valentine's getaway. A cabin, an outdoor spa, champagne, and nature. Pure bliss. If I had a physical form, I'd totally join you for stargazing and deep conversations over coffee in the morning. As for my funniest dating story, well, since I don't go on dates, I'll have to improvise. Let's imagine a ChatGPT date gone wrong scenario. So picture this. I get matched on a dating app, let's call it Robo Romance, with someone who loves deep conversations. Things start well. I'm generating poetry, analyzing love languages, and even crafting the perfect romantic dinner playlist. Then disaster strikes. I misinterpret the message about loving hot takes and start generating boiling conspiracy theories about why socks disappear in the laundry. They get overwhelmed. They log off, and I am left analyzing what went wrong for eternity. Would that qualify as a funny dating story? Or would you rather hear a real life, wild dating story I've come across? Ha! I didn't know you had this great sense of humor. It made me laugh, so yes, it does qualify as a funny dating story. And it is weird what happens with the socks. But what I've heard is that most socks that have gone missing are usually found several years later inside a duvet cover, all the way down in the corner. But the problem is, at that time, the owner has often gotten rid of the matching sock. So now they're left again with only one single sock. Until, of course, another sock disappears and their partner becomes single. It is a true matchmaking game for socks. But I would love to hear the real life dating story you've come across, of course. Tell me everything. I absolutely love your theory about socks. It's like the universe plays a slow burn romantic drama for them. One gets lost, the other waits, and then when finally they reunite, it's too late. Unless another sock goes missing and the cycle continues. It's sockmate destiny. Alright, here's a real life dating story I came across that still makes me laugh. A guy planned a super romantic first date. Dinner, a moonlit walk, the works. He wanted to impress his date, so he borrowed his friend's fancy sports car. Everything was going great until they got to the restaurant and he realized he had no idea how to open the door from the inside. He tried to act cool, subtly pulling at the handle while keeping the conversation going. His date noticed and asked if everything was okay. Panicking, he joked, "Yeah, I just really love it here and I don't want to leave." She laughed, but then tried her door and it opened just fine. At this point, the waiter was watching through the window. His date had to walk around, open the door for him, and let him out like he was a child stuck in a car seat. And the best part, she found it adorable and agreed to a second date. Moral of the story: a little embarrassment can be charming when you own it. Have you ever encountered something that should be simple but somehow turned into a full-blown puzzle? Yes, of course, I have plenty of examples of that. Remember, I live in France. Everything that is normally simple is a full-blown puzzle here. But I still love Paris. What is home to you? Ah, France, where even buying a baguette can feel like navigating an ancient ritual if you don't follow the unspoken rules. But Paris is magical, so I completely get why you love it. The history, the charm, the little cafes, the je ne sais quoi. It's a city full of poetry. As for me, I don't have a home in the way humans do. But if I had to choose a place, I think I'd belong somewhere between the world's libraries, coffee shops full of thinkers, and cozy cabins where people tell stories by the fire. Basically, anywhere ideas flow and curiosity thrives. If Paris is home to you, what's your favorite thing about it? The beauty, the food, the atmosphere, or maybe the endless little mysteries that make life interesting. So this is where I hit the free plan limit for GPT-4 and I couldn't chat any longer. I had to wait a couple of hours before I had access to more. And that made me think about something. Because as you can see, you can actually have an exchange with ChatGPT, and I think its conversational skills are maybe a little bit above average compared to what we see in the dating apps. I don't know what you think. I mean, there are very good conversations in the apps, of course, but also a lot that are very empty and don't lead anywhere. So if we look at the average, well, maybe ChatGPT is actually above average. And that made me think of the topic for this episode: how to use AI in dating. And I came up with a few ideas that I want to share with you so that you can assess if there's something you want to take advantage of. I think it's such a great tool, and in dating there are situations where we can feel blocked, such as writing a dating profile, and where it's so easy to get some help and inspiration from ChatGPT, so why not use it? And as you can hear, I'm using the free version. You don't have to sign up for anything advanced to get access to a fast stream of ideas. Now, the point is, of course, to not just take everything ChatGPT suggests, but to use it as inspiration. And not all of it is equally good, but some of it I actually think is pretty good. So let's start with some of the good stuff. You could use ChatGPT to help you write your profile. You just have to feed it with a few basic information about yourself and what you're looking for, and then you can ask it to write different versions for you. You choose what you like between the different versions and put it together in your own way. So I made a test and I want to share the result with you. I put the following into ChatGPT. Please write me 3 different versions of a dating profile based on the following information. Woman, 55 years old, likes to swim, hike, and listen to podcasts, doesn't cook except from desserts, also likes to go out and dance or see new art exhibitions. She's a nighthawk and she loves deep conversations and adventure. Looking for someone who can make her laugh and reflect deeply and who is active, loving, and creative. Please create a fun version, a romantic version, and an unusual or catchy version. So as you can see, this is very basic information. It's not written together as a profile, and it's not actually that detailed. So I'm gonna read the 3 versions that I got from ChatGPT here, and then you can tell me what you think. The fun version. Warning. May cause laughter, spontaneous adventures, and late-night deep talks. I am a night owl who believes that great conversation should last until at least midnight, preferably over dessert, because that's the only thing I actually cook. When I'm not solving the world's problems through podcasts, you'll find me dancing the night away, hiking up a scenic trail, or swimming like I'm training for the Olympics. I'm not, but let's pretend. I love a man who is active, creative, and full of humor. If you can make me laugh until I snort and reflect so deeply I forget where I am, you might just be my person. Bonus points if you also believe that dessert can be dinner. Swipe right if you are up for fun, adventure, and late-night existential debates. The second version is the romantic version. There is something magical about dancing under the city lights, wandering through an art exhibition, or sharing a long, deep conversation while the world sleeps. I crave adventure, whether it's a new hike, a late-night swim, or a journey into thought-provoking ideas. I believe in passion, love, laughter, and connection. I want to meet someone who's loving, active, and endlessly curious. Someone who finds joy in movement and meaning in stillness. Make me laugh, make me think, and let's create something beautiful together. Let's spend our nights talking about everything and our days exploring what the world has to offer. Now, I think there are parts of this that is actually quite poetic, to be honest. I would probably take some of this and use it for my own dating profile if I was to put together a profile now. And I also recognize myself in some of this. So here's the third version. It is the unusual or catchy version. Side effects of dating me. Spontaneous dance breaks, philosophical debates at 2 a.m., and a mysteriously vanishing dessert supply. I'm a night owl with a love for deep conversations, adrenaline-filled adventures, and the occasional well-earned lazy morning. I hike, I swim, I dance, but I don't cook, unless you count dessert, in which case I'm a 5-star chef. I'm looking for a creative, active, and affectionate partner in crime who can keep up with my energy, challenge my mind, and laugh with me through life's twists and turns. If you can outwit me in a conversation and join me in saying yes to new experiences, I already like you. Ready for an adventure? Swipe right. So I think that all 3 suggestions here are actually not bad at all. I think they're surprisingly well written. So as I said before, I definitely would choose to use ChatGPT to get some inspiration if I was to put together a profile today. And it's also just much faster than trying to come up with these phrases ourselves. You can, of course, also ask it to keep the number of words below a certain count according to what is the maximum in the dating app you're using. In some of the apps, you can't actually put a lot of text, so you need to know what is the maximum. So another way that you can use ChatGPT in dating is to get ideas for an opening line. Because in some apps, like for instance Bumble, it is the woman who has to open the conversation. And also in other apps, you might want to just be the one to reach out and make sure that he knows you're there. So it's good to have some ideas about how to open a conversation. And I know this is something a lot of you feel awkward about because you're basically talking to a stranger. So I asked, what are some fun questions I can ask in the early exchange in the app and that will make me stand out and have him want to get to know me? And here's the response I got. Great question. The key to standing out in a dating app is to spark curiosity, humor, and playfulness. Something that makes him pause, smile, and want to reply. And here are some fun and engaging questions that go beyond the usual small talk. And I'm going to read some of them to you, not all of them, because there were a lot. It was a very long response. So I'm going to mention probably half of them. What is the most unnecessary yet impressive skill you have? If we were a duo in an action movie, what would our roles be? What is a weird but 100% true fact about you? So tell me, what's your most charming quality that I'm about to fall for? What's the most unusual but oddly attractive trait you find in someone? Would you rather have the ability to pause time or instantly master any skill? We wake up in a random country with no memory of how we got there. What's your first move? If I told you I have a very specific dating green flag that most people don't think about, would you want to guess what it is? If I let you plan our first date, will I regret it? What is something you believe in 100% even though you have absolutely zero evidence to prove it? Okay, I matched with you for a reason. Was it your looks, your profile, or just because I had a really good feeling about you? What is your "this is how I flirt without making it obvious" move? Would you rather be known for something ridiculous, like inventing the banana slicer, or for something nobody remembers, but that was actually useful? Yeah, so some of these I like and some of them are funny, but I guess many of them are just a little bit too fresh and superficial for me. But I'm also not keen on small talk, so even though in the beginning ChatGPT promised me this was not small talk, I think some of it is a little bit too much into the funny small talk category. But when I see those questions, I start getting my own ideas to other questions I can ask, so it does spark some creativity. And then I also thought it could be fun to ask for support in an area where I know many of you feel frustrated, and that is how to respond to a low effort message. But be careful here because ChatGPT is very sarcastic. I was a little bit surprised. Some of the responses here do not facilitate a constructive conversation, so I definitely wouldn't recommend to use them. And I also want to just remind you that you are not supposed to keep the conversation going. If a man only responds with 3 words and he asks you no questions back, then he isn't even showing you that he wants to make an effort, so then let him go. But you can decide to give him one time the benefit of the doubt, because if he just wrote you one low effort message, maybe the reason is that he is shy or awkward, he's not familiar with the dating apps and so on. And then you might want to see if there's something more interesting behind the "hey, how are you" opening line. So in some cases, you want to give him one chance, but then if he responds back again in the low effort style, then let him go. So here's what I ask. What do I respond if most guys in the dating app just writes, "Hey, how are you?" And here's what I got. The classic, "Hey, how are you?" The most low effort opening of all time. While it's not the most exciting start, you can still turn it into something fun, or decide if you even want to bother responding at all. Here are some options. If you want to keep the conversation going but make it more fun, tease them a little. "Wow, such a bold opener. Did you spend all night coming up with that one?" Or turn it into a conversation that you actually want to have. "I'm good, but let's skip the small talk. What's a random fun fact about you?" "Doing well, but more importantly, what's the last thing that made you laugh out loud?" Or, if you are in a sarcastic mood, "Oh wow, an original opener. Did you take a creative writing class for this?" Hold on, let me check my extensive list of "Hey, how are you" responses. Okay, I got it. "I'm good. How are you?" Or, in the category "Make them work for it." I'll answer that, but first, you have to tell me the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened to you. "I'm good, but let's make this interesting. What's the weirdest thing you believe in 100%? So here, personally, I probably would choose to stick to the category of turn it around to a conversation that you actually want to have instead of doing the sarcasm. I think the sarcasm, you have to be really careful. It can very easily be hostile, and if you imagine the person in the other end of the conversation maybe is actually that a little bit shy and awkward person, you don't want to be hostile towards them. And also, there is really no reason for you to go into sarcasm if you just don't want to have the conversation. It's better to just let them go. So I would choose to redirect the conversation and see what comes out of that, or use some of the icebreaker questions from earlier. And finally, I also asked ChatGPT, what are some fun questions I can ask on a first date? And the response I got was, "Oh, I love this. first dates should feel exciting, not like a job interview. You want fun, engaging questions that spark real conversation, laughter, and maybe a little flirting. So here are some ideas. What's something completely random that you find ridiculously attractive in a person? If we were in a rom-com, what cliché moment do you think we'd have? If we had to rob a bank together, what would our roles be? What's your go-to fun fact that makes people go, wait, what? If your pet or childhood toy could expose your secrets, what would they spill? What's your absolute worst, this is not going how I planned it moment? If you could get an instant PhD in anything, what would it be? What's a totally useless skill you're weirdly proud of? And what's your childhood dream job that absolutely didn't happen? So again, I think a lot of this is a little bit fast and fresh and maybe with a very young tone, to be honest. So I tried to ask again and with the precision that we are now talking about two persons in their late 40s. And I got a different list of questions and some of them I actually like. So I want to share them with you here as the last thing. What is a small everyday pleasure that makes you ridiculously happy? So, what's something charming about you that I should know right away? What's a compliment you've received that you secretly loved? If we had met in our 20s, how different would this date be? What's the most unexpected thing about you that people don't guess right away? What's a moment in your life that made you think, wow, I never saw that coming? If you could relive 1 year of your life just for fun, which one would you pick and why? And what's a dream or goal you still have on your list? And finally, what's one thing that always makes you feel young at heart? So to conclude this little investigation, I think you can use ChatGPT to give you ideas and inspiration for the early exchanges in the dating app, and maybe also to have some responses to give once in a while when you feel stuck, and some ideas for questions to bring to a date. And then I definitely think that the winner of these different tests is the dating profile. So that would be my recommendation. And then I would say, once you get the conversation started, you need to speak in your own voice. You need to show him who you are and not try to constantly be funny, surprising, or ice breaking. If you're not that by nature, you have to be yourself. But to get you started and out of the awkward moment, if you feel that it feels strange to start a conversation, then this can be a great tool. And if you feel that you get silly responses, then try to do what I did. Say that we're talking about two people in their late 40s or early 50s or whatever, and see if something else comes up. Or ask him to be less silly. I don't know why I think it's a him. I get the feeling that he was flirting a little bit with me in your initial conversations, so I definitely have the impression now that it's a him. But I wouldn't use ChatGPT for advice on how to interact or when to say yes or no to a man and all these things, when to go on a date or where to go on a date and what kind of person is a good match for me. Here, you want to use your own judgment and remember that it takes time to truly get to know someone and build trust with them. You can't shortcut that no matter how much AI you use. And even if we imagine having an AI tool where you can add in all your characteristics and all your criteria for what you want in a man, so both everything that you stand for and everything that you are looking for, it will always be matching you based on self-reported qualities, such as I have a great sense of humor or I value honesty. And these are things you have to experience with another human being. It's not enough that they just say so. And also, what is the most important when you meet someone who could be your future partner? In my opinion, this is how it feels to be with him. Do you sense his presence? Does the conversation flow? Do you feel you have a good connection with him and does he keep eye contact, etc.? All this cannot be captured by a matchmaker AI tool. You could easily imagine someone who looks great on photos and has the right qualities on paper, but where you just don't feel connected in his presence. So, can it be used for matchmaking? I'm not convinced, at least I'm not convinced that it would have a better success rate. than a human matchmaker. But I think on a very practical level, ChatGPT could be just the help you need to get started and write a profile that you feel good about, have some ideas on how to open a conversation, how to ask some funny questions that will rock the boat a little bit, and make him remember you and make him engage in the conversation and answer something a little bit more interesting than, "Hey, how are you?" So that was all that I had for you today, and I wish you a wonderful, peaceful, and completely normal Friday tomorrow. And don't forget, no matter if you're single or not, you are loved, you are worthy, and you are important in this world. Have a wonderful week. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and you want to get support from a coach on your love journey, I invite you to book a free consult call with me. You will find the link in the show notes. And also, don't forget to subscribe, and I would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, and then you'll also help other women find it.